Oops.
Still muted.
Nope. It's not on this. I can hear you now. We're live,
Hello.
but you can't hear me, right? You can't hear me?
I can.
Oh, you
Yes,
can.
I can hear you.
And I can hear you. So are we? I think we're back on. I uh, I don't know why that happened. Anyway, let's try it. Let's try this again. Hang on. Here we go. Let me get. I got a couple of things to finish setting up on this side. Keep checking. I'm checking on you. Can I still hear you?
Yes, sir.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. And we are live. Good. Hi, Rodney. Oh man. So it looks it's got the. All right. So let's try this again. Let's switch cameras on me, you dog. Sorry, folks. We're having. Whoops. That's good. And right. There we go. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy New Year. If you're listening to this on replay, this is for you. And this is Rodney Wilds, F&M Vice President, F&M Mortgage. My name is Andy Elliott, realtor with Benchmark here in Williamson County. And our whole goal is just to help you do what you want to do in real estate during the course of this year. So let's try this again now, Rodney. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's great start to the new year. Glad to be back at work with a little time off.
Yeah. Did you get everything you wanted for Christmas?
I did. I did. Just
Good.
at my age, you just hope to have your family around you, right? I mean,
That and
I'm 50.
socks.
What am I? 52. Yeah.
You got to have socks. So, anybody that's seen this before or have seen the replay, oops, share screen.
Yeah. That might help.
Yeah, we always start out the same way, and Rodney sort of gives us the pulse of mortgage business. And here we go. Bam. There we go. What are you thinking there, Rodney? What's going on these days in the big world of finance?
Well, are you sharing the screen there?
I am.
All
Can you
right,
not see
perfect.
it?
I can't see it,
Wait,
but that's okay.
wait.
There we go. I can see it now.
Hit me.
Today's an interesting day to the start. You can see this doesn't happen a whole lot, but the 10 year is actually getting lower a little bit over here, and the 10-year Treasury. And we're seeing on the right side over here, you see this big letters that says LOCK. It means today we're in a position to lock your rate. If you were, and what I mean by that, if you had a contract and you were looking to purchase within the next 30, 60, 90 days, we are recommending lock that rate right now just because of the market. We do feel like the market's going to get worse in the next few hours. It started off, as you can see, a little bit better this morning, but as the days progressed, it's gotten worse. So on this, you may not be able to see down here, but it got up to there and it's kind of retreated back a little bit. Um, so overall, though, it's still holding pretty steady at these levels
Right.
where it got better about a month ago. So, or almost a month and a half now. So you can see
And
over the
you
last quarter,
and you're saying today's going to be a weird day. Is that what you said?
it started off weird. It started off getting better, and then for no reason at all, there was no news, no market news or anything that came out that caused it to. It was getting better, caused it to reverse course and get worse to a point to where the investors may say, reach out to us and say, "Hey, the rates are no longer good. They're going to get worse a little bit. We're going to send you new rates here shortly." So that's what we're avoid there.
Got it. And you had pointed out, if you go back to the top of the screen, because I'm probably ask you this every week, not only for myself, but for somebody that may not do this stuff every day. At the top, you were talking about the bonds rate.
Mm-hmm. I was talking about the U.S. Treasury market, the U.S.
Treasury,
10-year
yeah.
U.S. Treasury right here.
And so
Uh,
when that goes down, do uh, the mortgage-backed securities become more attractive? Is that what happens?
yes, when the U.S. the lower that number is, the better our mortgage rates usually tend to be.
And
It's a
that's
good
because
indicator.
investors are jumping from one place to another to expand profit, correct?
It could be, yes. Yeah. I'm not exactly why the 10-year Treasury tracks the U.S. 30-year mortgage-backed securities so well, but they do.
Got it. Got it. That's good stuff. And so it's a rocky road beginning of the year. What else? We just went through that ourselves, so I'm all right with it, I guess.
But we're still at levels where it was back in 2022. September 2022. So we're kind of a rebound a little bit still, which I think may have been our lowest point. Who knows?
Right. Well, we'll look at that. I get to change that. Thank you. All right. Jeez. so so today I thought what I was thinking about as a topic for maybe today and maybe moving forward, you can tell me how you feel about that. But the idea came across I had was about the 2023 real estate survival kit. And that's what today's about. We'll just sort of run this up the flagpole and see how it waves. But the idea is simply last year, clearly, there were just humongous changes, just tons of changes, most of it unexpected. And everybody's trying to predict these unexpected things, which is really difficult. I mean, look at Zillow and all these guys. We don't exactly know what's going to happen with the Fed and recession, if it's going to be a soft landing or not. It's starting to look like it is, though. That's the good news. But the point of this survival guide is, with all the changes coming on, and you tell me how you feel about this, Rodney. With the rock and roll roller coaster stuff that we had last year, it's my belief, and I'm just a guy I've been around real estate a long time, but I don't have a crystal ball. I'm thinking that this year, 2023, is going to settle down somewhat. Would you agree with that?
Sorry, again. Say it again. You cut right out when you said that.
Yeah, that 2023 is going to settle down a little bit compared to the roller coaster that we had last year.
I would agree with that. I would think 100%. I think the market, hopefully the rates market showing that it's settled down some. Feel like we've kind of found the floor there. So yeah, I think we got increasing inventory. So I think you're right on the money.
Yeah, but what I wanted to be able to talk to you about was there's a couple of things I thought was pretty interesting. And I think you were able to see let me pull it up here. Here we go. It was an article about looking ahead to the housing market in 2023. So the first thing they said, and let's kind of touch on this. So this was the John Lee article. It was the fourth article I gave you. It says the first one. It says, where will rates go? And so, over the past couple of years, they've been down to 3%. Last year, jumped up to 7%. Now it's bouncing around 6.5-ish, I think is what it is, what you just said. Do you have an idea on where you think they'll end up, let's say middle of the year?
I think they'll be a little bit lower than where they are today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a bold statement, right?
Yep.
But I think I really haven't put much thought into where I think they're going to be. kind of my thought was, as the spring buying season kind of approaches, if we get any kind of better movement in rates, I think the pent up demand will start coming off the shelves a little bit faster. Meaning, if we get under 6%, everybody who wanted under 6% now is listing. And then when we get to say 5.75 or 5.5, I think those people will do the same. So I think we'll, as rates go down, we'll see an increase, and inventory continues to increase. I think we'll see some more purchase activity.
Right. And I think that that's really the biggest point of the conversation is that as rates get a little bit lower, people will become interested in the market again. Because I mean, we were used to 4, now we're a little bit used to 6, and it gets closer to 6, then people are saying, "Hey, all things being equal, I can tolerate this," and so people are going to jump out into the market, and so the next question, and I've got a couple of things to show you on this. They're asking about home prices. Are they going to go up or down? Do you have thoughts on that?
I think I think if we continue to see listings increase and rates stay the same without decreasing, I think that we could still see some a small negative movement in housing.
Yep.
Uh,
Oh,
maybe even from right now, but I don't expect hardly anything. Just a few percentage, if anything,
right.
few percentage points.
Yep. I'll show you something here. Let me pull this up. I'm going to show this. Hopefully that'll work. Oh, it'll work good. So this is Fred, the St. Louis Fed. The median sale prices of houses sold. And this is why it's easy to get confused about housing prices going up, going down compared to when they're saying prices are slowing down. What does that mean? Because if you look at this, and they have so this is obviously where, not obviously, but this is where COVID started. From quarter to quarter, you can see how the prices just jumped. I mean, the second quarter of 2020 was 322. If you look at it today, it's 454 median home price. But what's different is how flat this is right here. That it's gone from ski slope to pretty slow.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point. So when they're talking about, for example, from September to October, they say prices went up 10% in that period of time, which seems outrageous, but that's 10% year over year. So I mean, you got to keep looking at that monthly pattern versus the year over year part. And here's the home sales. I mean, it just tanked. I mean, it ended up at almost 4.09, not even 4.1. So home sales are really slow. And that, I'm multitasking. And that, here we go. And that speaks to what you were talking about. People are going to get more in the market because as rates become more reasonable, there's going to be people that have to sell. Job changes, relationship status change, that kind of stuff. People are going to have to sell. So that's kind of my point. That things have slowed down in terms of the pricing going up. And a home sale should start to dip up naturally because it's spring. I think,
Right.
I mean, we're going to see seasonal activity. I'm almost guaranteeing that.
Now, can you put those two graphs on top of each other? Did they have one, or are those the same? Like one was one was going crazy down, and one was going crazy up.
I'll show
Is
it to
that
you.
the same time period?
No, these are two different things. This is the home sales graph. That's
Right.
the number of homes being sold.
And they're going down basically that's going down pretty significantly.
Significantly, because you got high prices, high rates. Everybody's getting out of the market because it's expensive. You know, some people
Hmm.
are not prepared for it, and so home sales, and that's been really the news the last few months, is that home sales just tanked. That was the big deal. But yet prices,
But that's
in
that
my
is
opinion,
whole.
in my opinion, they stayed pretty flat. You know, but again, that's home prices, that year over year stuff. You know, a year ago they were going up. It was 20% a year. I mean, they went up 35% in the last 2 years. I think it was since 2019, 35%. Well, that's not happening now. And so my point is, what should we expect this year coming in? And I think you're going to have more opportunity for homes to sell because there's going to be more coming to the market, right? Because people are going to be more okay with a higher interest rate. Because for the people, the sellers that are locked in, that's a problem, right?
Yeah, and in 2023, these two graphs have got to come. They've got to. They're going in opposite directions. They've got to. They can't exist in that state, right?
Right.
It's something's got to change there. You can't continue to have. It won't change. It won't happen as home sales decline. Our median home price has to go with it. Eventually those graphs are going to have to get closer together.
Yeah. Well, I would say that is if the supply and demand is going to tell us that if we have more supply, then the prices are going to go down. If we have less supply, naturally it's going to go up.
Right.
I mean, that's just
And that's
supply
what
and yeah,
our supply drove that chain right there,
yeah,
drove that thing.
yes, that's right. But I think, um, but I think what we're going to find out by the end of the well, it's going to be, in my opinion, the people are trying to get their bearings. You know, for the people that need to sell and need to buy, that's a metric that isn't going to change. And I don't know what that metric is, but there's a certain percentage of home purchases and home sales that have to take place. Now, the home purchase is obviously optional. I mean, I get that. You can rent, but for the people that are prepared to do that, that's going to happen. It's the people that have the elective purchases and elective sales that's changing our numbers.
Hmm.
I mean, um, there's so many people that would have moved and would have bought had things been different, and they disappeared, and so we're left with 4 million homes sold over the year of 2022, which is the lowest in what, decades. It's the lowest it's
Yeah.
been in such a long time. But now this year, as people come, kind of look out of their shells a little bit, and they have every right to be shell shocked, they're going to start to make moves, like you said. And so it's going to be middle of the spring, into the spring before, for me anyway, to have any sense of where this thing is headed.
Right. It's we're so close to that the Arctic blast that we got in our area that did you even leave your house for 2 or 3 days? That's probably the first time
I
I've ever
didn't.
done that.
No, man.
Um, I actually drove to the office and checked to make sure our pipes didn't burst here or something, but that was it. I got out 2 times for those 2 days just to drive here and check that. That was it. It was wild. So that shuts down real estate activity. For us, it's like
Yeah.
brutally cold like that. So
Yeah.
I think we're going to start seeing it. I think it's going to pick up. I think people are used to a little bit higher rates. People are going to be excited about having some choices and getting to negotiate again and look at things and having inspections. So
Yeah.
it's definitely. Who knows exactly? You know, you never know until you look back at a calendar and say, "Well, it definitely got better this time." But who knows when it's going to get better? But um,
Right. Well, I read
it's
someplace that that refinances have increased a little bit. Is that true?
we haven't seen a big increase in any kind of refinance numbers. No,
Oh, okay. Okay. Um,
I haven't seen it, but I don't know. Somebody may have, but I don't know what they're refinance. I don't know what they're refinancing.
yeah,
You
I just read that the other day, and I thought, I wonder where that's coming from.
yeah, we haven't seen that.
We're losing steam here, man. So, do you want to touch? Is Let me just ask you. Hey, Angie's got a question. Let's ask that. So let's see if we can't address that. And you can probably see it. Do you think that there will be a reversal from COVID when everyone wanted to move somewhere rural and now go back to the cities? That is an excellent question. I have a story for that. Can I tell
Tell it. Not,
it? Here it is. And it was the first real evidence I had about exactly that scenario. I was talking to a client yesterday who had moved from Ohio here 3 weeks ago for that specific reason, is that they used to be remote working, and the company, the boss, said, we've got to put an end to that, sort of like Elon Musk is getting pretty strong about that. And because of that, he liked his job, he liked the paycheck and everything, but because of that, he had to move from Cincinnati, which he liked Cincinnati, but he had to move here to eliminate the remote work thing. So my
mm,
question or my answer is, I've got empirical evidence to that people are doing that. And that's going to fall into the category of people are going to have to move, including people that own their homes
yes,
that have
and
bought in the last couple of years.
I think a lot of our on the fence people too, you know, will be you know, when they get their bearings, like you said about this recession thing, you know, are they comfortable with their jobs? You know, are they stable? Has their income went down? Has their bonus income went down? Things like that due to the economy right now. So you know, jobs drive a lot of that. Like if people 1,000% good about their jobs and employment's everywhere, you can get a job everywhere. People are buying. You know,
Yeah.
people buy more in that time versus where they are at today in their jobs.
And it makes you think. I mean, boy, you know what? And for anybody that's just like when the situation back in '08 and 2012, even if you hung in there, you recovered quite nicely, obviously. But for the people in the last couple of years, there's a similarity to that although it hadn't dropped in value, it's if you try to sell after an increase like that, that could be a tough one. And I'm thinking that there was a lot of movement for the remote work thing, that if somebody does end up needing to move and only been in their house a couple of years, um, I would think there's a risk for a haircut on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. It just
You know,
depends. I mean, if they got in, you know, if it's immediate, say they moved in last year or year and a half, I would think so. Go back a little bit further than that, you know, you might be okay. But yeah, I
what
mean, you might you right now you're even if you bought 2 years ago, you by the time you know pay your fees and stuff to get out of it, you'll be
right? Well, there was another article. I don't know if you want to speak to it, but that's why I sent it. Um, Talking about these folks, the question is what to do about an underwater mortgage. Do you have any pointers on that? Any thoughts? I mean, if somebody finds themselves in that position, what do they do?
it's
Probably.
At best, I'd say it's just discouraging. I mean, honestly, because I don't look at those things. When you buy, um, if you've bought at the absolute top of the market, there's a risk of you going backwards. Um, but I don't see a whole lot of issue with that, because if you're
Yep.
if you're still comfortable making your mortgage payment, that's what you just got to do. And this is a long term investment, right? So in 10 years, you're going to be well to the positive, or 5 years, or whatever it is. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about it.
Yep. Yeah. I agree that completely that probably step number one is stay put. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, because you look at that, that's just a paper. You're analyzing. Your equity is right now it's just a number on a piece of paper. If you're
Right.
not planning to sell, you bought that house, you love that house, your payment's still the same. There's really no huge issue in it, besides a little bit discouragement. But that's what comes with any kind of investment. Um,
Yeah. And I
you
don't mean
take
to.
a chance on it going down, but in real estate, it's over the last centuries. So
Right. Right.
you're in
And
pretty good
it.
hands.
I didn't mean to get off on a negative topic, but I think that there's going to be a certain number, a certain percentage of people that they bought in the last couple of years that will have to move and maybe be facing that. So it's
Yeah,
it's
no
manageable
complaint. Yeah.
usually. Um, so the let's go back to this other thing. Here we go. Yeah. So then we have um, here's what I kind of wanted to touch base on, Rodney, and see if you're okay with this. How and we can do this in the last few minutes that we have, helping people understand what is it in a market like 2023 that's coming that we don't really know, but we've covered some bases that prices are probably going to moderate. They're not going to go up too much, at least that mortgage rates is certainly probably going to get better. I think it's all signs are pointing to that. It even looks like the recession problem, inflation problem is working itself out. It looks like that. Have to see the next, couple of months and see how they go. So what I'd like to be able to talk about, and with your help, is how does a person go into this unknown circumstance and try to get the best deal they can on a house? Now, selling it is a different deal. We could dice that, but it boils down to price it right and make sure it's in good condition. That's two steps. But if you're looking to buy a house, it's a little more complex. I mean, it's a little more nuanced. So is that okay to kind of go through a couple of those and I can get your thoughts?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, for my first things first is that I am going to see my local real estate agent. Okay, um, in Tennessee, our fee, and it's probably all across the country, and you may can answer this. In Tennessee, when a house is listed, the seller has a fee to pay the realtor, right? To pay the person listing it, and pay the person that brings them the buyer. So the first thing I recommend is find you a real estate agent that you like and trust. They're going to help you with the market. They're going to help you to know where this, even specifically neighborhoods. Like, Andy, if you go to a neighborhood and you're like, man, the normal days on the market's 82 days, but in
Right.
this neighborhood, the last four houses sold in 14 days. So you're going to know that information and pass it on, versus generalizing the market, saying it's a buyer's market. You can offer anything you want to offer. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
having some really good advice from your real estate agent, and not calling the number on the sign. If you call the number on the sign, to me, that person is already made a deal with the seller that they're going to pretty much get them the most money for their house that they can. However, them and the sellers agree to that is fine, right? But that's what they've already agreed to in premise, right? That they're going to sell that house, and the money is already built in for the other representation for a buyer. So if you don't have representation, you just lose it. You don't save the money. You just lose representation. You don't lose any money. They don't ever say, I'm going to give you 3% straight off house. Because if they did that, they'd probably get in real estate trouble for just saying, oh, we're paying less because there's no real estate agent involved.
Right.
But that's the first thing I do. And then the second thing I do is I'd see a mortgage professional that can walk through your debts and get you and walk through the products that are out there that you're hearing about: buy downs, permanent buy downs, temporary rate buy downs, interest abatements, all kinds of stuff, and talk through them, see what options are best for you. Because they're all out there.
Yeah.
Some fit some better than others.
You had, I hope you don't mind me publishing. I'm going to show something that you published as a post. I want to do this and see if that's okay with you. You had posted that earlier, and I screen captured that. And these are some of the things. And if anybody wants me to send them, to have Rodney send this to them, just give us your email after the fact. But these are some real good tips that he included in his Facebook earlier today, and I wanted to make sure to share that. So what I wanted to do then, let's do this. This is good. And what Rodney's talking about in finding somebody that you can trust. Here I'm going to break it down for you. Why this isn't? We're not trying to sell you anything. It really is. It's going to turn out that it's in your best interest. Here's the deal. In a market like this, sellers have a hangover of high prices from last year. They think that their house is worth more than it is. And that isn't a shot. It's just that the market's changing as they were sitting there. They couldn't help that, But they had the idea that their house was worth more than it is. And so they listed too high. And so when buyers don't buy it, it's called days on market. So it sits out there for 30, 60, 90. And there's some pretty crazy days, fairly long days on the market compared to what it used to be. If you're working with somebody that can show you, just like what Rodney said, this area is normally 12 days on the market, but this dude's been sitting there 30 days. Those are the houses that are going to be more negotiable if you like the house. Don't go for the dollar, go for the house. But if you find a place that you like and it's been on the market too long, they're going to be more than likely ready to sell. When it pushes 60, 90 days, sellers start to get jumpy, as well they should. What's wrong? The price is too high. To have somebody that has experience in that and done it dozens of times, it's not a big deal. I've had buyers go, is it okay if we ask for less? Yeah, it is. It is, and,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's a pretty big number. And so having somebody help you navigate that's your first, that gives you a target to shoot for. Does that make sense, Rodney?
Yeah. Yes. That's and it's just what I see or don't see it all the time. I see it a lot is people going straight to the seller
Yep.
without representation because they think they're going to save the money, and they don't save the money. They lose representation because the sellers already agreed to pay that money. The realtors,
Yep.
it's basically a signed contract. They're not going to go back and say, oh, since they didn't come in, you need to pay less. That ain't how it works.
Right.
Once the seller agrees to it, that money's gone. No, it doesn't matter who buys it.
The only circumstance where that can actually come into play is when you're dealing with a for sale by owner that's just trying to sell their house on the side of the street. And that's not a shot. If you're enterprising and you're willing to take that chance, go ahead, But that's the only time you're going to get that recovery, because that's a really common misconception. If I go straight to the seller, I'm going to save 3%. Oh, no, you won't.
Yeah.
Either the agent gets double paid or the seller gets 2% more. Usually is what happens. They'll drop to 4 and they get 2 more. Anyway, so we were talking about earlier, you and I, before we got on, buyers are now going to have more buying power. Tell me about that.
Well, that are more buying power is one. I'm looking at where rates are today. I'm not going back to a year and a half ago or what time low. Right now, they're pretty steady. So rates are what they are. But what I do see is, and I feel like the set you have a little bit more negotiating power with the sellers because there's more inventory. And to me, those two factors make that a buyer, a buyer. I don't see the underwriting changes of last year or the increase in rates. We're already there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's past history. So we're already at, we may be on a downward curve on our interest rate. So to me, the buying power is increasing as we move forward right now.
Yeah.
Which
And
I don't know, 6 months ago it was going the other way, right? But I think we're on the downward trend now.
yeah, I think so too. And we'll know, we'll have a good signal for that next month. We'll
Yeah.
not that it'll stay, and we're not implying that, but things change all the time. But I like the idea of things settling down. Just the water's been boiling and it's been crazy, and it'd be nice to see that settle down. So the next step is, and this is for me, it's a showstopper, and that is before you go out looking at houses, get pre-approved. Find out
Hmm.
what you can actually purchase, because there's a difference on what you can get a loan for and what you should get a loan for. Those are two different things. I think would
Yes.
yeah.
And on both sides of the coin, a lot of, your very conservative person's going to come in, and they're going to be like, man, I could never afford that payment. But the computer may say, hey, you're perfectly fine with that payment. And then you got the vice versa of it is like, well, I can afford that payment. And then the computer says, well, we don't, it doesn't think you can afford it. Right. So you got both ends of the coin there. But yes, the getting pre-approved, understanding, what, how, and honestly, how the deal needs to be structured. Like, um, we work very well together. But if you get like we've talked about in the past, let's say if you're in Colorado and your Colorado agent has a good mortgage lender that they're working with, I would definitely talk to them and see what they had, and they need know how to structure the offer together. Andy, I'll give you an example for you. You're a phenomenal negotiator, but what makes it, so what I do is, I try to give you any information that you need. Say what is closing cost, what would we need to get to meet the person's goals that we're working with, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you go and negotiate that. So that's what I'm talking about as a good team working together. If you find an agent where they're out of state or wherever, a good agent, and then go and getting approved with a good, with their lender, a good lender is, they work together. It can be a benefit for you,
Yeah.
for the buyer.
Yeah. I agree. Um, so once okay, so once you found a house you like, it's got some high days on market. What will happen is you'll say, well, what should we offer? That's almost always the question, and it's up to the buyer what they want to offer. Ask that question, but they'll typically ask, how low can you go? And that's where you're going to start getting your advice. The difference between a reasonably reduced offer and a low ball emotionally for the seller is a huge deal. So there's a range on there. It just depends on the price range of the house. 800,000 negotiations is different than 400,000. 1.5 is different than 8. But at any rate, finding that sweet spot, because there's a sweet spot. Remember, a sale only happens when the seller offers what you're giving them. When there's an agreement between the buyer and seller, that's what creates the value of a house. For lack of, I
Hmm.
mean, that is the term. That's the value of the house. That's what it is. Um, but I know if I wasn't in it, well, when I bought my first house when I moved here, I wasn't in real estate. We were asking the same questions. I wanted to
Yeah.
pay 200,000 less on a $500,000 house. The guy said it's not going to work. Oh,
Right.
Are you
Yeah.
sure? Can we ask? No.
Yes.
If you want to kill the deal entirely, yeah, we can. So you get guidance on that, and then we can provide. If the seller becomes, sometimes they get offended, is the word I'll use. If you can provide the seller with some data that says, look, it is a nice house. I understand why you think it's worth that, but here's what everybody else is doing and selling. Not what everybody's listing for, but this is what they're actually selling for. That's why we based that number on that. And if you have somebody that can help you provide that data to the seller, they may not like it, but data is data, and data doesn't usually lie, you know? Anyway,
Yeah.
so that's it.
Yeah, that would have the seller and their representative have an open conversation about, hey, you know, they provided, 4 listings, that same square footage as mine, that's extremely similar, for less.
And I'll give you even a behind the scenes. I think this is probably okay. There's a behind the scenes situation when realtors are working together, that sometimes a seller will have an exaggerated notion of what their house is worth. And again, I understand that. I do. And I've had listings where they were like that. If a listing agent takes a listing understanding that the seller has this exaggerated value, when you bring an offer, you may call that listing agent, which I always communicate with the listing agent, obviously, or maybe not obviously, not everybody knows that, but I communicate with them, hey, I have an offer coming, but I warn them, we believe the price is a little bit high. We're going to be offering you less. We understand you may kick it back to us, but I just want to give you a heads up, because that gives that agent, who has probably been trying to get the seller to see the light, so to speak, for a lower price to get their home to sell. Because after 30, 45 days, the listing agent it's a fine thread, because pretty soon the seller says, well, you're not doing your job, so they get fired. It's usually the third agent in that gets the house sold.
at the
When
at the reduced price the first guy said.
correct, and you just got to keep reducing. Well, last guy didn't work, we'll do it again. Okay, it's just nuts.
Yeah.
But listing agents sometimes welcome that. They go, hey, you send in what you think it's worth, because in the end, it makes their job easier to convince them that the price is not correct. Now,
Yeah.
without having somebody that's done that, in other words, like Rodney was saying, if you were to walk up to a seller or their agent and just plop that number down, they may not see that as a legitimately researched number and to have any value. They just see you trying to spend less money anyway.
No, I hadn't thought of that. Honestly, Andy, it's a good thing you pointed out. I've never kind of thought of it that way. Is like yeah, you're actually the agent wants to help. I mean, I've never thought of it that way, but they want help to try to get the seller in line.
Yeah. Well, and the same thing applies with when you're given feedback when you've shown a home. Feedback is typically ignored by most agents, sadly. But what that is a mechanism to got a question for Angie. We'll get to that in just a second, Angie. The feedback on showings is critical, because remember, when somebody takes a listing, the house may not be in great shape, but the seller thinks it is. They can have a purple bathroom. For anybody that got purple bathrooms, I'm sorry, but they can have an oddly colored festive bathroom color that you'd want to paint, and they'll go, no, I think that's great that way. Well, you can't fight them over that stuff, And
Yeah.
so when there's things about the house, the condition on the inside that may be off-putting to people coming in, the seller may not be open to that kind of input from the listing agent. They think you're trying to get me to spend money on paint and such. Well, when an agent has a showing for a listing, and they give feedback, the purple bathroom's got to go. Well, message received,
Yeah.
feedback is big. We're going to take a tangent here. Angie asked a question for you, Rodney. If you're paying cash, do you suggest opening an account with a top, well-known local bank?
Yeah. Cash is king. Well, wherever you now, I'm assuming if you've got it, I'm assuming you've got it somewhere now. I'm assuming it's not like bricks of cash at home, money to a title company. So it's going to have to be sitting in some account. And whenever you're paying cash for a property, basically instead of a pre-approval, you're just going to want a note from your bank saying you have funds to pay cash and you can access it within say 14 days or whatever. So,
Oh, that's what the
but,
question was. I
but
get it.
any bank would be fine. Not a local. It doesn't matter.
Got it. I get the question. I wasn't clear about it. So the next step in working with somebody and how you can survive buying a house for a better price in 2023, and we'll keep fleshing this out during the course of the year. There's a lot of different angles to this. But the next one is what now buyers can have an inspection, a thorough inspection of the house from roof to foundation to whatever. You can have everything and anything inspected. There's no limits. The only thing they'll tell you about inspections that you can't do is you can't, cosmetic stuff doesn't count. You can see what you're getting. And so you can't call that out on an inspection. But when you're working with somebody, and that's the reason that we're talking about working with somebody, it's to your benefit to have them be able to say, here's these inspection problems. With this market, you can have those guys fix almost everything
Mm-hmm.
if they
Yeah.
want to keep the thing moving forward. Because remember what the real world effect is when you put in an offer. You put in an offer, if it's accepted, the house goes contingent. Very few other buyers are interested in a house when it goes contingent because in their mind it's probably already sold, and most of the time it is.
Right.
But if you're under contract and it shows that in the MLS, that kills the showings almost always. And if you go through the inspection period and it takes 10 days, now you're 10, 12 days down the road and you got an inspection problem. The two choices the seller's going to have is to revisit this same inspection issue with another buyer anyway, or stop the whole process and start again and then face it again or fix the
Yeah.
problem. So
And hopefully have to disclose that to the new person now.
that's correct. Yeah. If one's discovered and you present that to them, it's got to be presented, of course, then you're absolutely right. They do have to disclose it, which is going to hurt their odds of somebody saying that's okay.
Yeah.
Are the buyers paying for inspection again? One inspection, well, are the buyers paying for inspection again? Let me like. Well, every time a person attempts to purchase a house, they're going to pay for the inspections, all inspections, and they're going to submit earnest money almost always. Even now, they're going to submit earnest money. But all the inspections are paid out of the pocket of the buyer, no matter how many houses they try. And on the same house, it's got to be a new buyer, new inspection. So yes, I think what your question is, will they give the inspection to the next buyer? And the answer is absolutely not. I think that's what.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm almost taking it like, are the sellers even allowing inspections now? So yeah, we've talked about that a little bit. Yes, I mean I think it's, for the most part we are a lot. Buyers are paying for them, but they are able to get them now at least.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that's what you meant or not.
I think, as I read it, that I think that probably is correct. You bet. Inspections are back. They're better than ever. All I
Yeah, the
mean to
sellers
say.
don't pay for them, but they're allowing them.
Yeah. Otherwise, they're not selling the house. Where in the old days, and you're absolutely right, people were buying a house without inspection. So those are back as well. They should be. Yes, they are. And so you get somebody through the inspections. If all goes well, then, oh wow, in Tennessee, I've never seen that. She's got the seller paid for their inspection. You sure? Like a home
Hey,
inspection?
I bet they would now. I bet anything's negotiable now. I bet sellers would
No,
pay
I'll
more.
pay for it.
Yeah,
Of course, that would be, boy, if I was the listing agent, I have to say don't do that, because now they own that inspection report and they'd be forced to
yeah,
disclose every single thing on there, as
yeah.
opposed to just
Paint
getting,
chip and everything. Yeah,
yeah, that's dangerous. You'd have to be pretty confident of your place. So you get through the inspection. If it's a green light, then you go ahead, you move to closing, you get through the appraisal and that sort of thing. The final step then is this, and this is where I think there's sometimes where there's tremendous value in agents. Let's say that the inspection fails, an agent can help you get out of a bad deal without,
hmm,
the only expense that you've incurred and that you will have lost is the cost of the inspection. That's like a pretty cheap insurance policy. But those are the steps that after you've done that, you will have successfully got a solid house, or you've been able to get out of the deal because it wasn't as solid as perhaps it looked at first. And that happens. That
yeah.
happens.
Or you're just informed. I mean, you just know what you're getting now too.
Right. That's exactly right. Because you can, um, oh, wow. Boy, that goes back a minute. That was an REO. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. That was that was a different day and time. I'll tell you. I went through a bunch of those. But anyway, so those are the short steps. I kind of went on a little long, um, but those are the short steps on buying a house in 2023. So,
Good
um,
steps.
do you have any final thoughts there, Mr. Wilds?
I like what we covered today. It's all about finding a good representative for you in your area, and getting some good information from them and letting them negotiate for you. It's a good plan.
Yeah, yeah. And so week by week, we'll go along. We'll see what happens, and as the market changes, it's gonna. That's the
Yes,
one
it
thing
is.
I know. The market's gonna change. But where you are depends on where you stand. So anyway, hey, listen, had fun this week. Sorry about the technical problems up front. Happy New Year.
Hey, it wouldn't be our show if we didn't have some technical problem.
Yeah. Like they said in Apollo 13, there's our glitch for the mission.
Yeah.
Hey, Angie, listen, thanks for coming by. As always, look forward to seeing more of you. This, I can, you give me a call, send me an email. I help you figure that out. I've got a hotline. She's asking where to find good agents. If you need an agent, I don't care where you are in the country, um, let me know. I can get you in touch with a highly qualified, one of the top 1% in the country. I can help you do that. So just send me an email, shoot me a text, carrier pigeon, whatever works for you. So see you guys. Bye, Angie.
All right. See you,
Rodney,
Andy.
talk to you next
Enjoy it, my
week.
man.
Bye.